What if the most explosive royal secret in decades wasn't hidden inside a palace vault, a locked archive, or a government safe, but sitting right there in a car trunk, at the most secure address in Britain, during the grandest royal banquet of the year? What if Princess Diana's most private letters, her personal fears, her handwritten thoughts from her darkest days, were discovered not by historians or investigators, but by a king who simply noticed a trunk that wasn't fully closed? That is exactly what reportedly happened. And the man whose trunk it was? A food writer. This is the story that shook the British monarchy to its core. So Tom Parker Bowles is reportedly driving around with Princess Diana's private letters sitting in the trunk of his car. And the explanation he gave for having them is honestly more confusing than the discovery itself. Because if you are going to get caught with some of the most sensitive documents in modern royal history, you would think you'd have a stronger story prepared. But no. When King Charles reportedly lifted that trunk lid at the palace and found folders marked Diana, confidential, the explanation that followed came down to essentially this. Someone gave them to me for a book project. A book project. The man is a food writer. He reviews restaurants for a living. He writes about cheese, roast chicken, and fine dining. And we are supposed to believe that confidential personal letters and deeply sensitive royal documents just happen to land in his lap as research material? That is exactly where this story gets seriously strange. Before we get into all of it, if you love unpacking royal stories and the details that never appear in official press releases, hit that subscribe button and join the community right here. We break down everything the palace quietly wishes you would forget. Alright, back to the story. Let's set the scene properly, because the full context makes everything feel even more extraordinary. This was not some quiet, unremarkable evening. This was the night of a grand state banquet at Buckingham Palace. Golden lights blazing, crystal chandeliers overhead, world leaders, ambassadors, and dignitaries filling every carefully arranged seat. The kind of event where every fork placement is deliberately planned and every public smile is privately rehearsed. King Charles had waited longer than any heir in British history to take the throne. And this banquet was designed to be his defining moment, a powerful, public demonstration that the monarchy was strong, stable, and steady under his leadership. Prince William and Princess Catherine arrived looking absolutely immaculate. Catherine wore a deep emerald gown that caught every camera flash in the glittering room. King Charles and Queen Consort Camilla entered together, her silver gown shimmering beautifully beneath the palace lights, the assembled crowd offering polite, measured applause. And then Tom Parker Bowles pulled up, sharp suit, carefully groomed hair, just another familiar name on a very long guest list. Except to Prince William, he was never simply another name. To William, Tom represented something far more loaded. He was a constant, living reminder that Camilla's family had gradually woven itself deep into the fabric of the British monarchy. And you could reportedly see the tension register immediately in William's expression the moment Tom stepped out of that car. Jaw tight, controlled, quietly watching. The dinner itself moved through all the expected formalities with practiced precision. A string orchestra played softly in the background. Long tables draped in crisp white linen, lined with perfectly polished crystal glasses. Formal toasts honoring unity, shared history, and the enduring bonds between nations. Tom sat only a few seats away from King Charles, laughing comfortably, chatting easily with government ministers about food, restaurants, and life beyond the palace's gilded walls. Several guests reportedly found him genuinely charming company. Prince William did not share that view. To William, that relaxed, easy laughter felt completely out of place, like a sound that simply had no business filling that particular room on that particular evening. Prince Harry was not there to witness any of it. Across the Atlantic Ocean, he had long since chosen a different life, one far removed from palace banquets, formal toasts, and carefully managed public appearances. His empty chair at the table carried its own quiet, unmistakable weight. The entire evening moved forward carrying a deep undercurrent of tension that the cameras present could never quite fully capture. Perfectly polished on the surface, quietly boiling underneath. When the banquet finally concluded and guests began drifting out into the cool London night, King Charles reportedly excused himself, told Camilla he needed a breath of fresh air, and walked alone through the palace corridors, his footsteps echoing steadily against the marble floors, before stepping out into the quiet courtyard. Palace guards stood at their posts, as silent and watchful as always. A long line of sleek black cars gleamed beneath the warm glow of the courtyard lanterns. And that is when King Charles reportedly noticed Tom's car. The trunk was not fully closed. Just a small gap, almost invisible from a distance, but more than enough to draw immediate attention. At Buckingham Palace, where security operates at the highest possible level, nothing is ever left unsealed. Every single vehicle entering the palace grounds is thoroughly checked and cleared. So why was Tom Parker Bowles' trunk sitting open? King Charles reportedly frowned. He looked around carefully. No one appeared to be watching. He stepped closer, paused for just a brief moment, and then lifted the trunk lid. Inside, concealed carefully beneath a dark cloth, were stacks of documents and sealed envelopes bound neatly with red string. Old, worn, marked with official government stamps. And sitting right on top, almost as though it had been deliberately positioned to be found, was a single folder with large, bold letters printed clearly across its cover. Diana, confidential. King Charles reportedly staggered back. His face drained of color. His breath caught sharply in his chest. He did not even have time to fully process what he was looking at before a voice broke through the silence directly behind him. "Father, what are you doing?" It was Prince William. And then William's eyes moved past King Charles to the open trunk, and the change in his expression happened instantly. Shock arriving first. Then something far sharper and far more dangerous. Pure fury. Here is the central contradiction that makes this entire situation so extraordinarily difficult to accept. Tom Parker Bowles' explanation was straightforward. He had not stolen anything. He claimed that someone had given him the files. A man he had previously worked with, someone who reportedly dealt in rare and valuable documents, had told him he possessed sensitive information connected to Princess Diana, and that certain interested parties would pay an enormous amount of money to obtain it. Tom claimed he had not believed the man initially. But when he actually saw the documents with his own eyes, he said he took them, purely to keep them safe. Safe. In his car trunk. At a royal palace banquet. On palace grounds. In a vehicle that any number of people could have approached and opened. That is not safekeeping. That is not even remotely cautious behavior. That is carrying extraordinarily sensitive, irreplaceable material into the single location where its discovery would cause the most severe possible damage. If someone genuinely wanted to protect Princess Diana's legacy and keep those private documents away from the wrong hands, why bring them to Buckingham Palace at all? Why not secure them in a proper safe? Why not contact King Charles or palace security officials immediately upon receiving them? The logic collapses completely the moment any real pressure is applied to it. And Prince William applied that pressure without hesitation. He pointed directly at the open trunk, his voice reportedly shaking with barely restrained anger, and demanded that Tom explain why his mother's personal letters and private documents were sitting inside Camilla's son's car. "Don't lie to me," he said firmly. "These are private files about my mother. Where did you get them?" Tom's response, that he had been told the documents were intended for a book project, landed like something pulled from an impossible dream. William's disbelief was immediate and complete. "You expect us to believe this? That Diana's personal letters were simply handed to you for a book?" And that single exchange tells you everything you need to understand about how genuinely extraordinary this moment truly was. Tom Parker Bowles is a well-respected food critic. His entire professional identity and public reputation are built around restaurants, culinary culture, and the art of fine dining. The suggestion that someone would specifically seek him out, above all other possible recipients, and hand him classified royal documents for a literary project does not simply stretch credibility. It completely disregards how the real world actually operates. Documents of this sensitivity and historical importance do not casually circulate through the rare manuscript market, quietly waiting for food writers to happen across them. If someone genuinely held Princess Diana's confidential private letters in their possession, they would go directly to the press. They would approach a major publisher with a proven track record in royal biography and investigative journalism. They would seek out someone with both the platform and the financial resources to pay the substantial sums Tom himself had referenced. They would absolutely not hand them to the Queen Consort's son with a suggestion that he incorporate them into his next culinary book project. King Charles attempted to step between the two men and mediate, but he was visibly and painfully torn between two impossible positions at once. On one side stood his son, the future king, his voice filled with entirely justified and deeply personal anger. On the other stood his wife Camilla, the woman he had fought so hard, for so many years, to protect and legitimize, and her son, now directly connected to a secret that carried the potential to cause serious, lasting damage to the crown itself. When King Charles carefully pulled a single envelope from the folder and opened it with visibly trembling hands, he found inside a letter written in Princess Diana's familiar, elegant handwriting. Instantly recognizable, deeply personal, completely unmistakable. These were not administrative records or routine official correspondence. These were fragments of Diana's innermost private thoughts, written, it appeared, during some of the most painful and difficult periods of her life. His hands reportedly shook as he held the page. He could barely bring himself to continue reading. And Prince William watched every second of it, his fury building steadily and silently with each passing moment. His father hesitated. "This ends tonight," William said, his voice low and firm. "Either we confront this right now, or I will handle it myself. But one thing is completely clear, Father. If you protect him again, you will lose me." That is not a statement made carelessly or in the heat of a passing moment. That is the heir to the British throne drawing a firm, permanent line, and telling the reigning king, in plain and unmistakable terms, exactly what the price of continued loyalty to Camilla's family would ultimately cost him. The timeline of what followed matters enormously, because it shows just how rapidly this situation escalated from a private late-night discovery in a palace courtyard into a full-scale public crisis. That confrontation between King Charles, Prince William, and Tom Parker Bowles happened late at night, after the banquet had ended and most guests had long since departed. The palace grounds were quiet. The lanterns still glowed. And yet, by the time dawn broke over London, the news had already reached Queen Consort Camilla. A single message, whispered quietly through the palace halls. "The trunk has been opened." Camilla reportedly sat up in bed immediately, silk sheets falling aside, and she knew, before anyone confirmed a single detail, exactly what those for. Before we continue with this incredible royal story, if you enjoy emotional royal history, hidden stories, and moments that reveal another side of the royal family, make sure to subscribe to UK Dispatch and turn on notifications. The timeline of what followed matters enormously, because it reveals just how rapidly this situation escalated from a private late-night discovery in a quiet palace courtyard into a full-scale, unstoppable public crisis. That confrontation between King Charles, Prince William, and Tom Parker Bowles happened late at night, well after the banquet had ended and most guests had long since departed. The palace grounds were still. The lanterns glowed softly overhead. And yet, by the time dawn broke over London the following morning, the news had already quietly reached Queen Consort Camilla. A single message, whispered carefully through the palace halls. "The trunk has been opened." Camilla reportedly sat up in bed immediately, silk sheets falling aside, and she knew, before a single detail had even been confirmed, exactly what those 4 words meant. Her aides soon confirmed everything. Prince William knew. He had seen the letters with his own eyes. And her son Tom Parker Bowles was the person who had been caught with them. Camilla's reaction, by all accounts, was pure and immediate panic. She reportedly clutched the edge of the bed, rings pressing hard into her skin, and whispered almost to herself, "Diana's letters. In Tom's car." This was her greatest fear materializing in the most damaging way imaginable. Princess Diana's shadow, the ghost that had quietly haunted Camilla's entire relationship with King Charles through decades of public scrutiny and private pain, had risen again. And this time, it had risen in the most dangerous and public form possible. Prince William, the boy who had once watched Camilla with silent, barely contained anger at royal engagements, now reportedly held something concrete in his hands. Something real. Something powerful enough to fuel every grievance he had carried for years. Camilla moved quickly through the palace corridors, slippers brushing softly against the cold stone floors, every portrait lining the walls seeming to watch her progress with cold and judgmental eyes. When she finally reached the courtyard and saw King Charles standing beside the car, looking visibly older, his face grey with exhaustion and despair, and Tom lingering silently nearby, clearly ashamed and at a complete loss for words, she reportedly fell apart entirely. She turned to her son, and her voice was not calm. "You fool," she told him. "Do you have any idea what you have done? You have destroyed everything we have worked for. You have torn open wounds that were never properly healed. And you have handed William the one weapon he has always been waiting for." Tom tried once more to explain that he had not stolen the documents, that he had genuinely been trying to keep them safe, that his intentions had been protective rather than harmful. Camilla's response cut cleanly through every word of it. "Safe? You call this safe? locked in a car trunk at a royal palace banquet, waiting to be discovered by anyone who walked past? Safe from whom, Tom? From William? From the king? From me? And that, honestly, is the question that still does not have a clean or satisfying answer. Safe from whom? If the genuine goal was to protect these documents from being exploited or sold to the wrong people, then bringing them onto palace grounds was without question the single worst decision that could possibly have been made. If the goal was to eventually reveal their existence publicly, then concealing them in a car trunk makes absolutely no sense either. And if the goal was to sell them privately, then the timing, the location, and the method of concealment are all completely bizarre. None of the possible explanations align neatly with the actual actions taken. And that persistent gap between what Tom Parker Bowles claims he intended and what actually happened is precisely what makes this feel less like a straightforward accident and more like something that was quietly waiting to be found. Camilla reportedly sank onto a nearby stone bench, overcome with emotion, her body shaking. She turned to King Charles, her voice raw and stripped of every careful layer of composure she had spent decades building. "He will hate me forever, Charles. He has always hated me. But now he actually has a reason. He will tell the world that I destroyed his mother. He will turn the people completely against me. The crown will slip from my head before it is even properly secure." And then she reportedly said the words that are said to have chilled King Charles to the bone. "Diana has won. Even in death, she has won." That single line tells you everything about where Camilla's mind was in that moment. This was no longer about the documents themselves. This was about a decades-long weight she had carried, the feeling of competing with a ghost she could never outrun, and the devastating realization that her own son's actions had just handed that ghost the victory she had always most deeply feared. Meanwhile, Prince William had left the courtyard, but the storm inside him had not quieted in the slightest. He told King Charles directly before leaving, "Tomorrow I will tell Catherine everything. And if Camilla does not already know, she will. You cannot bury this, father. You cannot protect him. Not this time." And then, in what became the single most significant turning point of the entire crisis, Prince William made a decision that no one inside the palace had anticipated. He decided to go public. For 2 full days, the palace worked desperately to contain the situation. Reporters crowded every available corner outside the gates. Microphones thrust forward. Questions fired rapidly through the air. Is Prince William in open conflict with the king? Did Camilla's son really take Diana's private letters? Has the monarchy stumbled into yet another devastating scandal? The palace issued no statement. Official silence was the chosen strategy, designed to protect the institution while advisors scrambled behind closed doors to find a workable response. But that silence did not protect anyone. Instead, it became the loudest possible answer. And then Prince William stepped out of Kensington Palace, Princess Catherine walking steadily beside him, and he dismantled the wall entirely. Under normal circumstances, William waves politely to waiting cameras, offers a few carefully measured words, and retreats back inside. Controlled. Disciplined. Predictable. Not this time.